Okay, welcome back. I cannot believe 1 year ago was that incredible aurora borealis show that was seen across the lower 48. It was, it felt like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Where were you when you saw it?
I was in Goldendale.
Oh, okay.
So I was down there in the dark sky area with my telescope.
So you knew to take the trip?
Yeah, I did. Well, I go down there every new moon.
Okay.
Because one thing the moon does is it blows your eye out, right? We're just talking about white light. So you want to go out to the dark sky when there's no moon, basically, or new moon.
And you captured your own visuals of it, right?
I did, with an iPhone. Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Oh.
I was looking in my computer, because that's what we do now when we don't look through telescopes so much, we look in computers, right? So, and somebody yelled, "Aurora, Aurora," and I looked up and there it was, and I whipped out the iPhone, and it was a 3-second exposure. It was just beautiful. I got the whole Big Dipper in it. So.
Yeah, and that was, it felt like, and it truly kind of was, that once in a lifetime. Like, we really hit that max. We haven't seen anything like it since. Yeah,
you know, it's interesting how our memory works, maybe, because it really happens every 11 years. And so this is an 11-year solar cycle, and we're right at the peak of that cycle, just at the top. So the solar cycle this is solar cycle 25, which just means there have been 25 11-year cycles that scientists have documented. So that goes back, almost 300 years, right?
Wow.
And there's some before that, but that isn't very reliable data. So they count the sunspots. So the sunspots indicate activity on the sun, and it goes up as the 11 years go by, and then down on the other side. So we're right at the peak now.
Right now.
So actually, this summer could be as good or better than last summer.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what the aurora is.
Yeah,
why are we seeing these crazy northern lights, and why is it so colorful, and what is the science behind that?
Yeah, it's particles from the sun. So the sun's very active, which means it's throwing off stuff. And if the stuff comes toward us, it hits the atmosphere, and it makes the oxygen and the nitrogen emit light. So that's what you're seeing. The red that you see is oxygen. The blue or green is nitrogen. So those are the two elements in the sky. Well, those are the most common elements out there in the atmosphere, right?
There's a little extra.
Yeah, you get the light from that, the sun interacting with our atmosphere.
That's cool. I think I heard someone describe it as the sun, I can't remember if they said hiccuping or burping at Earth, but
yeah, it is. It's doing those. It's throwing stuff out, and it can throw stuff. The question is, when it throws stuff out, is it throwing it at us? Because it throws it out in all directions, right? So in order for us to benefit from it, it needs to come our direction.
Yeah.
The downside of that is it can hurt stuff that's going around the Earth too.
Can it?
Right. So that's a concern. In these high activity, we have more stuff out there now, right, orbiting than we did 11 years ago. So they're keeping us.
We're talking like satellites.
Yeah, the satellites. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, what would that potentially do to a satellite?
Well, could disrupt communications and so forth. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so they're watching that closely.
Because that is something that we talk about when I always love to see, when we have the potential for aurora, read up and what's going on. And that's something that they've said is that it could potentially get in the way of signals.
Yeah. And so the particle, they know it's coming because the light comes here a lot faster than the particles. So they can see it happen, and then they can know it's on its way, and they can do some things to help, prevent damage.
Wow. And as a meteorologist, we're forecasting, right? So we forecast the weather, and whenever the aurora is potentially going to appear, that's one of the things, the community turns to us and wants to know if it's going to happen. And one of the things that we've tried to communicate is that we can have the potential for the aurora, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, not a guarantee.
How, when would it miss, and why would it not come to fruition?
Well, if the particles that are coming off the sun in these flares don't come our direction, then we're not going to have them. We won't have it. It still could be high activity, but they're not in our direction. So that's probably the main thing. I predict, though, we'll see some just like we did last year.
Interesting.
I think so.
Okay. So, and let's talk about that 11-year cycle. So you said we're at the peak, you said this summer.
Yeah, this summer is the peak, yep.
Okay, so what should people know as far as making sure they're staying on top of if it's going to come, and how far in advance can we predict and forecast those impressive nights?
Well, not to take anything away from your forecasting of stuff,
No,
but
take it.
there are
Take it and run.
there are apps.
Okay.
And get the app.
Okay.
There are free apps out there for aurora forecast. I have one on my phone. I look at it all the time, and it shows you from the North Pole just how far down it's coming and how strong it will be.
Okay.
So they're good forecasting tools.
Okay, and I'm going to ask him this, and I have no idea what he's going to say, but do you have a favorite app?
Aurora forecast.
Okay, there we go. Self-explanatory.
That's what it is.
All right, and of course, well, we'll say this too. I mean, King 5 people, we will also stay on top of it.
Yeah,
you can stay tuned into King 5 as well. Okay, so with that timing, we're potentially hitting the peak. How long would that peak last?
Well, the peak lasts this year, essentially. That would be this summer, and then it starts going back down in this sun cycle.
Okay.
When I first started on this journey, I was at the Pacific Science Center, and I was doing solar education during the eclipse in 2017.
Cool.
And there was nothing going on. So we were looking at the sun, it was just a red ball with nothing going on. But now, when you look at it, there's flares coming out, there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh, neat. And then aurora viewing tips. If we do have a night that's potentially going to have high aurora activity, what should people know?
Same ones we already covered. Dark sky area.
Yep.
If you're in Seattle, forget it. I mean, you gotta go someplace dark. You might be able to see it here.
You know what I will say? I'll say this. So 1 year ago when we had that incredible aurora showing, I was actually in Ballard.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming,
Yeah.
and I stepped outside and I said, oh gosh, I don't know, we're in Ballard. It's really bright. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it. And I stepped outside and I looked up, and even in the bright lights of Ballard,
You got it.
I could still see it.
Nice.
It obviously was not as impressive as if I had been in a dark area,
Yeah.
but it was still beautiful.
Yeah, and think about the iPhone too, or whatever good phone you have,
Yeah.
because you can just hold that up steady for 3 seconds and get some beautiful pictures, your own pictures.
Let's quickly talk tips if someone is shooting on their phone. What is the best way to make sure you're capturing the beauty?
Steady hand.
Okay.
The one I sent you it has stars in it, and they're pretty round, so I had a pretty steady hand. Just point it north. That's where they're coming from.
Okay.
And hold your breath.
Hold your breath and cross your fingers.
3 seconds, maybe.
3 seconds. The long exposure, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the cameras are much better at collecting light than our eyes are.
Yeah.
Our eyes are fantastic and beautiful, but cameras do. These CCD, they call them cameras they have now. They're in everything. They collect light beautifully and much better than we can see.
Yeah, and I've felt that. I'm sure other people have as well. But when you are, if it is a night where the aurora is out, if you look at it with your eyes and then you look at it through your phone, it's more powerful through your phone.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else aurora people should know?
Yeah, just keep looking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your eye to the sky.
Yeah.
I love it.